Okay. Our theme this month is trust. And as I shared at the top, and I think I shared in the description of this worship service, this is about to be a little bit of a trust fall. For those of you who arrived late, I have no sermon, I promise. I have the reading written down and the hymn number after the reading. She's laughing. And I realized as I reflected on trust falls, and I was sitting with my eyes closed listening to guys' beautiful music and watching you all put your cards in those baskets. Come on. The Spirit moves halfway through. Come on up. That there's really no hard landing here.
Come in. We got
you. Thank you. And the reason I say there's no hard landing about this trust fall is because it's you. And you have poured out these blessed moments where you turned your car down that road not knowing where it was going to take you or had to pivot and adjust in real time. And you took the time to write down whatever beautiful thing happened as a result. So I can't wait to see which ones my hands will find their way to. I'm not going to read all of them, but I will seriously pray about how I then bring all of them to you again, hanging them somewhere, sharing them in some way, so that all of yours are read and known by one another. So, we are in this together now. The moment when I took a deep breath and said to her, well then, maybe we should get engaged. The decision to take a chance on First Parish of Watertown, which has brought joy and friendship and purpose beyond what I ever imagined. I changed my major in college to avoid flunking out. My love of sports and being with children evolved into a career in physical education and then teaching. Somebody just drew a big, magnificent butterfly. So let us take a moment to recall the butterflies of our lives. This person took a lot of time to fill up this whole card, so I feel it my duty to read it all. Partway through my freshman year of college, I learned that the school was about to make a huge change that would shift funding to areas that were not important to me. I made the spontaneous decision to transfer to a different school. This leap allowed me to find what I love to do. Isn't it a marvel when a roadblock helps us to know what it is we are meant to do? I look back over my life and think about the times that a big no has opened up the biggest of yeses. You know what I mean? Charlene convinced me that I could indeed sing. This one is filled with questions, and the questions of the unknown. Divorce uncertainty, kids, housing, finances, work, question mark, question mark, question mark. The moment I realized that it's all improvised, that we're all making it up as we go, That feeling scared me because we don't know how it will turn out. Is the same feeling as being excited. That's when I learned to embrace uncertainty, to see the idea of certainty as a comforting illusion. Practice, show up and listen to bring your best to your improv. We have a preacher in here. I was asked during a big meeting to talk about how to deal with anxiety about awkward situations. After I finished my presentation and returned to my seat, I discovered my fly had been open the entire time. Amen. Just when we think we know who we are and how it's all going. My moment was connecting with the Spirit on top of Cadillac Mountain, Acadia, doing yoga on top of a ledge. It was misty, visibility was low, and I was the only one there. I felt a wonderful connection with something. I call it the universal spirit, knowing I wasn't alone. It was magical. My big unknown was when I ended a long-time relationship and threw in my lot with my now husband, Alan, whom I had known seriously for only a few weeks. Arriving at Heathrow with an 8-hour layover, we spontaneously decided to visit Windsor Castle, which, despite the fact that we had lived in England for a year and visited many other times, we had never visited. I'm going to mix that one in, Michael, otherwise your cover's blown. Oh, I preached about this one last week. I listened to that still small voice and walked away from a graduate program that I had tried so hard to get into without any idea of what came next. What courage it takes to walk away and not know what comes next, huh? Believe it or not, COVID changed my life for the better. I was able to help my daughter and son-in-law continue to work and earn their living by taking care of their 2 babies, a newborn and a 2-year-old. Now, 5 years later, I am an integral part of these precious lives forever. Such unexpected blessing. There's another word for that in the world of religion, and it's called grace. Can't plan for it. And out of the muck and mire that was the pandemic, what blessings emerged for some. I'll share with you what came to my mind as I was thinking about what I would write on one of those cards, which is that I was grieving the loss of my grandmother. And for anyone who has grieved the loss of loved ones, you know it just casts shadows on every corner of your life. I felt like I was walking through sludge. And I was taking care of my 2 daughters who were really young at the time, and that's its own heavy labor, and your schedule's just so tight and packed with you has to do this and this and this and this, and I had this tiny sliver of time before picking them up from preschool and kindergarten, and that time had to be used for grocery shopping and errands and all the things, right? And I got in my car and suddenly drove myself to the beach. I lived close to Plum Island at the time, and I laid on that beach and wept fully for the first time and felt the presence of my grandmother and something lift for me or open. I'm so glad I didn't turn my car towards Market Basket. Thank God I didn't listen. Dignity for grief. Such an unknown path grief is, isn't it? Increasingly, I realize every day, twice written, I never know, and it is never as bad as I fear. I had a piece of African panel fabric and no plan for it. I cut it up and assembled a large quilt by putting the pieces together like a jigsaw puzzle. It was pure improv and very successful. Improv with our hands, right? Making art. Moving from the West Coast to the East Coast with sadness of leaving and excitement of a new life's adventure. If only we could infuse that feeling of new life's adventure into the humdrum of our lives on every day, huh? Coming out to my mom as a lesbian was my most profound unknown. I was embraced with the greatest love. When I was in high school 50 years ago, I wrote in the student newspaper, quote, of love. Of love. See, cryptic ones like this keep you on your toes. What happened? Why this? Isn't that the sweetness about listening to each other and maybe not knowing the full story or getting it? But here we have someone who simply wrote in the student newspaper of love 50 years ago, and it was an unexpected turn of grace and glory. I'm going to do a few more. Hitting the road by car or bike with just a general concept of a destination. Route TBD. Plug that into our GPSs a bit more. All right. Every time I give a good tour of the historic House Museum, it's off script. Sure, there's an outline, but it adapts to visitor questions and ends up co-created. Good historic research questions are like choose your own adventure, with facts and dead ends and adapting as you go. Now this last one, they were together, so I feel I'm going to listen to Spirit and imagine that they belong together. Because one simply looks like a doodled maze with a red crayon, and I don't know if this was at the hands of a young one or young in spirit or what. But if that's not getting lost and not knowing where you're going in drawn red crayon form, I don't know what is. And this sweet blessing, Reverend Sophia, you got this. And what I want to say in response is I didn't do anything. And isn't that a beautiful thing, that when we think that the weight of all of it and my nerves, as if it were all on my shoulders, but in the end it turns out it's we. And all I had to do was receive and be reminded about the life-saving qualities of destination and route TBD. And I don't know about you, but it feels really comforting these days to have a plan. And plans are good. And also, there is a certainty and truth in life, which is you just never know what's going to happen, and anything can change on a dime. Nothing is fixed and certain, and I need this reminder every day. That, to me, is where hope and faith live. And so often it's found in the sweetest, smallest, unexpected graces, like adding too much paprika to that dinner dish, or a program closing up shop, or a trip to the beach, or a moment at the top of Cadillac Mountain. As we bring this unscripted improvised time to a close, I want to lift up thanks and prayers to everyone who took the time to think about this and write them down, and I am going to save these and think about how to share them with all of you. The creative spirit really is working in us and among us. And I tell you, the trust it takes to sit in a room with you all and just let it rip is a beautiful thing. And I hope you feel that this Sunday, and I hope you take it with you outside these walls too. There's something about trust falls. There's always people to catch us. And I want to gift you with the reading that Lynn read earlier, A Man Lost by a River. Let it swirl around amid all of these unexpected, improvised, spontaneous turns you've shared. There is a voice inside the body. There is a voice and a music, a throbbing four-chambered pair that wants to be heard, that sits alone by the river with its mandolin and its torn coat and sings for whomever will listen a song that no one wants to hear. But sometimes, lost, on his way to somewhere significant, a man in a long coat carrying a briefcase wanders into the forest. He hears the voice and the mandolin. He sees the thrush and the dandelion, and he feels the mist rise over the river. And his life's never the same for this having been lost, for having strayed from the path of his routine for no good reason. Amen. All right, well, we did it. The operative word being we.